Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor. The Minister of Higher Education has allocated almost 9 billion rand to help fund students this year. But is it enough? Will students be protesting about money again next year as they are right now? My special guest today is Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Beeld Nzimande. After that discussion, we'll name and shame our loser of the week. But right now, let's take a look at some of the big stories of the week. Joining me for that is Adriaan Basson, editor of Beeld newspaper, and Ranjeni Munusamy, associate editor at the Daily Maverick. Guys, welcome to the show. Adriaan, let me start with you. The EFF, 1 year old now. Is it a flash in the pan? Can they survive the next 4 years, 5 years, and run a proper campaign again?
You know, Justice, in the beginning when the Economic Freedom Fighters was launched, I thought, okay, this might be another COPE, you know, a one election party that does really well. But I do think there's something about the EFF that has ingrained them in the political body politic of the country. They really appeal to a number of groups of people. Lots of people, more than 1 million votes. It's not something to not brag about.
But I'd say to you, COPE got 1.3 million votes in the last election, 7.4%, I think it was.
I think the EFF has distinguished themselves from other parties. COPE was just too much like, I don't know, the UDM, like a bit like the DA, a bit like the IFP. So there was nothing really special about them. The EFF clearly coming in with lots of rhetoric about land reform, agriculture, nationalization. The proof is going to be in their influence when decision and policy is being debated, and not only when they march and throw out dustbins outside legislatures.
Ranjeni Munusamy, what?
You see, I think COPE was in a constant identity crisis, and that was their problem for the start, whereas the EFF is extremely distinct in who they are and what they set out to achieve. They have a list of things that they are identifiable by. They are identifiable by the way they look, their parlance, and I think that, you know, they have ensconced themselves in the body politic of South Africa, and I think they will be around for a long time. And their objective is to continue to rattle cages, and as long as they do that, they keep their constituency happy.
What have you thought of their, and you referred to the way they look and so forth, but the past month they've been in Parliament, they arrive in their red overalls and their domestic worker type regalia. Is that pushing a support away from them? Are people saying, oh, these guys are playing around, look at what they did at the Gauteng legislature? Or is it actually saying, yes, defining them more properly?
I don't think that bothers their constituency. In fact, I think it keeps them in the news, and it keeps their constituency engaged to say that we are challenging the status quo. We're not here to keep things going the way they have been. And I think that's their agenda, and that's what draws their constituency to them. So, now Julius Malema is promising a march of 50,000 people through the streets of Johannesburg and wants to shut down the city center. And, you know, things like that, he probably will get that crowd because people want to do that. They want to, you know, stop the normal course of business in South Africa.
Again, I think, Justice, the big risk for them is now some of their supporters who stormed the Gauteng legislature actually vandalized the building inside. Now, do they want to be remembered for those things or for the difference they make in debates? Let me just say for a start, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the Speaker of Gauteng doesn't want them to wear red overalls in the legislature.
Well, the red overalls did have ACG written on them, which is
but who cares? I mean, this just gives them oxygen.
Absolutely, you know? And I think that's where Parliament was good. I'm not sure who was the Speaker that day because Baleka Mbeki has been missing in action, but the Parliament was good to allow them to say.
But the Chief Justice swore them in, and he had no problem.
Absolutely. So I think this is terrible political misjudgment by the ANC in Gauteng. I think the EFF will need to be remembered for their speeches in Parliament, for those beautiful speeches, or those good points in debates about land reform and mining. And I still have to hear that.
Just a quick one. Julius Malema is at the center of the EFF. Do you think if Julius Malema gets into legal trouble with his charges and so forth, is the EFF now entrenched enough to survive him?
No, I think he is the draw card. He is the major appeal of the EFF, and he's what keeps the wheels turning for the EFF. I think it's still too young to be able to survive on the strength of anybody else yet.
Guys, let's move on. There's lots of stories. President Zuma's daughter, 25-year-old, gets a job as the chief of staff in Siyabonga Cwele, the Minister of Telecommunications' office. Is this Domina teacup? Is this a genuine story?
I kind of feel sorry for her to Tukile Zuma is her name. I feel sorry for her because she's obviously a bright young girl. She has a postgraduate degree from University of Witwatersrand in anthropology. But I can understand the outrage and I can understand the skepticism and the questions about her appointment because of the patronage we have seen around President Zuma since he came into power, because of other children that got jobs on boards of companies where they probably were not qualified, or because of his cousin or his nephew, Kulebushe, getting lots of work and becoming really rich under his term. So I understand it seems that not all the facts, Justice, are out there, but it does seem that the post wasn't advertised and that she was a political appointment by the Minister Siyabonga Twele, who she had worked for at State Security. It does seem fishy, it doesn't look right, and if you also look at her qualification and the job she's in, it's more like an HR job, and she's got an anthropology degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you know, the mystery here is solved when you look at the job description for that post. It's Chief of Staff, and the list of duties include liaising with the presidency. So if Minister Twele needs an appointment with the president, Tutukile, please call your dad. So, you know, it's as simple as that.
Ranjeni Munusamy, let's talk a bit about South Africa sending a mission to Gaza. I mean, do we have the clout? Can we do anything meaningful in this, in what's going on between the Palestinians and the Israelis? Look,
the Middle East crisis is a highly emotive issue in South Africa at the moment. So you could see that the South African government was feeling some level of pressure to do something, but opting to send two mediators with, you know, on an unknown mission. I don't know who they're going to speak to there. I don't know where they're going to speak to. For example, Hamas in a war zone. And also the ANC's ties was with the PLO, not with Hamas. So I don't know what leverage they think they're going to have with Hamas. And also, if Israel is not responding to the Americans, to the United Nations, why would they respond to South Africa? And, you know, this is not South Africa's first rodeo in trying to stop a war as well. They also sent Deputy Minister Aziz Pahad to try and stop the war in Iraq. I was there at the time, and the bombs almost fell on our head while we were there.
Well, we tried. Adriaan Basson, one thing about the Gaza story was that Stone Sizani, the ANC chief whip, stands up in Parliament and says the DA is being funded by Israel. I think it was him, yes. Now, for me, that's not even a story, but the story is party funding. We run up to the election. You've written about this again and again. Are we ever going to see transparency in who funds our parties? I mean, who funds the ANC, the EFF, the DA?
It's really the one issue that all parties agree on. They don't want to reveal who their sources of funding are. And I can understand why. The ANC has now asked for more public funds for the party. I would support, you know, government actually giving more money to political parties. The question is, will that automatically in turn mean they won't be asking for other money from outside? And I think the answer is unfortunately no. I'm going to look at this court case with a great interest, Justice. I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what the Constitutional Court has to say about this merits of political party funding. We have seen Oilgate, we have seen the Brian Hlongwa scandal that broke over the weekend, which concerns, again, a public tender for health services in a province where health service providers are not being paid, siphoning of money to the party war chest before an election.
Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for your time. We could have spoken about the NPA. We still have the NUMSA, but we've run out of time. Ranjeni Munusamy, Adriaan Basson, thanks so much. Still to come, we asked Dr. Beeld Nzimande why the government turns away half the students who apply for bursaries. Stay with us.
News that moves. ENCA.com.